This is Open Mind Alexander Technique. I'm Jess. Today we're talking about the psoas muscle and the way the psoas forms the connection between your breath and your legs. So I've talked about this a little bit before in my breath mechanics video, so I'll put a link to that down in the description, so go check that out if you want to see more about this. We're going to cover a little bit of these mechanics as a review today, and then look at how can we apply that to getting a little bit better release in the legs so that they're not constantly trying to pull up into your torso. So the psoas muscle is one of your hip flexors. Hip flexion is this way, so bringing your knee closer to your chest. Extension would be the other way. You have several different hip flexors. Psoas is the relevant one here because of where it attaches at the top. So what that looks like on our friend Stan here, psoas muscle runs from these little nubs on the inside corner of the femur. Make sure this is angled for you, right? These little nubs. And then it runs just over the pelvis on both sides and then attaches along the sides of the spine. So this is really a pretty big muscle. Stan here has a very long torso, so it will be slightly longer on him than on some other people, but still, on everybody, this runs from around your lower ribs all the way down to top of the femur here. So where that connects with the diaphragm, and why I'm saying it's the connection between breath and legs, comes from the diaphragm's shape and attachment points. So your diaphragm's hanging out up here. It's shaped like a dome. It goes down when you breathe in. And notice that with how a dome works, if we flatten out the sides of a dome, if we flatten out the top of a dome, the sides go out. So that's my inhale. And then my exhale, the diaphragm goes up and that brings the sides in. So where that is attaching along the backside of that dome is also along the spine. So on me, as I'm standing facing you, here's my diaphragm hanging out in my torso, and way deep in there, behind my organs, the backside of that dome attaches along the front of my spine, way deep in there. I have trouble finding really good online resources for what this looks like in a still image. So what I've done is just taken a picture of my muscle chart here. So I'm going to put that off to the right, just making sure I get my numbers right here so I can tell you properly. The numbers 12, 13, and 16 are parts of psoas and the connected systems, psoas major, psoas minor, and iliopsoas. I'm going to refer to all of that together as the psoas, just for ease of communication, but it does have some different pieces to it. So 12, 13, 16 are all parts of psoas and iliopsoas, and then 4, branching over the top, is all diaphragm. So you can see how the diaphragm really has some tendrils that stick down, and the psoas has these little fingers that come up. So this view that I've got here is not on the outside of the body. This is with organs removed, as if you're looking into Stan's belly, so behind the organs. So you can see the front of the spine in the middle where these things attach. So how do we work with this? And what is the relevance to Alexander Technique, and in particular where I'm teaching it with musicians? When we stand for long periods of time, if the psoas is constantly active in ways that we don't realize because it's a very deep muscle, it's making our lives harder. You do not want to be able to feel your psoas, I promise. I have had to have physical therapy and manual release of that after I had surgeries on both of my hips. And they actually had to cut through part of psoas, so after that healed, I had scar tissue and they had to work that out. And it was absolutely miserable and I cried because the way that they find it is by first finding this outer ridge of the upper part of the pelvis, the iliac crest there. Then they go 2 knuckles in and then 2 knuckles deep because it's behind your intestines. It's absolutely awful. So don't try to touch your psoas. It's way in there. Most of that is in your belly. So the way to work with this is through belly release. So if we look at this on Stan here, if our psoas is attaching from this little nub on the inside top corner of the femur all the way up to about mid-spine, mid-torso, that's pretty far just belly. The majority of it is just in your belly. So as you're standing, think about allowing your belly to let go, especially as you breathe in. Many people try to suck the belly in when they think they're breathing properly because they want to maximize the feeling of the ribs expanding, and they do it by sucking in the belly. It is counterproductive. It's not how your organs work, and it actually will tend to lock down your muscles and prevent you from getting a full breath. So allowing the belly to let go and coming back to just upright. As you're exhaling, remember that your diaphragm is going up, so you do have an internal up direction. Keeping a mental eye on that, prioritizing that mentally, that my diaphragm goes up as I breathe in, thinking that direction can help give you some more internal support to help you not collapse on your exhales. So all of that support is still in there. You still got an up direction going as you're exhaling, and you can let go of your belly. And think about the belly releasing down and out into your legs. Now, for some people, this might make your knees kind of shaky, and that is okay. You are in good company. Most of my students have that happen the first time we really get this to let go. They'll be a little shaky, and I'll see their knees go whoa, 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 whoa. Generally, what I do is I give them a railing, something to hold on to. So for you at home, that can be a table, or if you want to use the back of a chair, turn a chair around backwards so it's facing away from you, and you can just set your hand on the back of a chair. That's what I do in here. It tends to work well. Just having that mental reassurance that we're not going anywhere, the floor still got you. You've got an additional point of contact as you learn to let go of the belly while still staying upright. It can be helpful to do this with a mirror or the help of another person, or video yourself. If you're going to do that, get another view of yourself from the side if you can. That's going to be your best angle to see yourself from, so that you can watch that you're probably not going to start collapsing when you do that. If you're coming back to, I've still got support in my spine, allowing that soft connection all the way up from the bottom of my spine up to my ears, and I can still let go of my belly and let go of my legs so that my knees are soft. So that's standing, psoas and leg release. Next, we're going to look at sitting. All right, seated leg release with breath. So to kind of review the systems we're looking at here, here's that hip flexion, bringing the thigh up closer to the torso. The rotation point is my hip joint. So here's how those systems work. I'm shortening the distance between my thigh and my spine, way deep in there. So take a second as you're sitting to think about allowing your belly to let go. This can be a hard one for a lot of people emotionally. I generally have anywhere from 1 to 3 students each year will end up in tears doing this because of just having years and years of history of being told to keep their belly in and that they're not good enough or that they're doing something wrong if their belly actually takes up space. So letting go of that can be a pretty powerful emotional experience for some people. This is where the organs live, and if I'm restricting that, then I am really preventing myself from using my biological systems in the way that they function. So my belly can let go. Bellies can have some squish, especially while you're sitting. So I can let go of my belly and let that go down and out my legs. The phrase that I generally give to people for this is let the floor do its job. Allow the floor to support my legs so that I'm not trying to pull my legs up off of the floor by flexing the thigh and the femur up. Let the floor do its job of supporting the weight of my legs for me. Let the chair do its job of supporting my torso. What this does is it helps me to not attempt to levitate, which is not useful and also not possible. So allowing the floor to do its job is a way to think about leg release. So I'm allowing my belly to let go and allowing the floor to take the weight of my legs. One of the challenges of this is if people have been achieving sitting upright by pulling their spine towards their legs, which again, it's the same function, it's just changing which one is moving. If we start to address this and start to learn to let that go, it can be a big challenge to not start to rock back and kind of tuck the tail under and go into a forward curl and kind of a slouch pattern. I was working on this with a French horn player a couple days ago. And this is someone who's very, very experienced. He's a senior in undergrad and now doing grad school auditions. So this is someone who's been playing seated for years. And I had my hands behind his shoulder blades, behind his back, so that he could feel if he started to lose that upright stability, while also giving him constant cues to let go of the legs, let the legs go into the floor, while holding his instrument and playing. And the first time we tried this, I just left my hands still. And then I asked him, okay, what was that like? And he asked me, were you pushing? Were you pushing like on my back to get me to stay forward? I said, no, I was holding my hands still. You actually were pushing back into me. And he said, oh, okay, heard, got it. All right, let's try it again. So we tried it again. And I did the same thing, just held my hands behind his back so that he could feel if he started to rock backwards. And he managed to do it. There were several times when he would come back a little bit and then have to, come back to, okay, my up direction is here and I'm letting go of my legs. So I have this opposition going on. It was very difficult. And so afterward I asked him, what'd you think trying it again? And he said, hardest long tone of my life. It's fantastic. I thought it was such a perfect response of, yeah, this is really difficult. So, as you are working with this stuff, know that you're in good company. This is hard for just about everybody. Letting go of the low belly, because the low belly is the connection between easeful breath and legs. And know that even if you are used to getting stability through tension, and if we start to address the tension, you might feel unstable, stick with it. Give it a few weeks. Keep practicing. As many times as you can remember it, letting go of my low belly, still up in my torso, and I can let go of my legs. So I've got both of these directions going on. And what that leads to is a lot more ease in the legs without having to make that ease come along with collapse or instability. Give it a try, see what happens.